Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this virtual training, excavation safety training workshop presented by Oki A11. This presentation is going to be co-presented by myself and my colleague, William Bohannon. My name is...
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Luis Rondon, and I'm the bilingual liaison for the Education and Outreach Department. And William Bohannon is the other liaison for the department. Before we get started, we'll have a chat. If anybody has questions, please leave it on the chat. We will try to answer them as we go, or we can always wait until the end and try to answer those questions that you guys may have. Please leave those questions in the chat or anything, or any particular, I don't know if you guys need any type of link for resources or etc. Just let us know on the chat. At the end of the session, you guys will be taking a quiz to get certified with A11. It'll be a 25-question quiz. It'll be super easy. Multiple choice questions. Everything's going to be related to the presentation. So again, you guys can ask questions on the chat if you guys have anything in particular. But it'll be super, I guess, straightforward. And again, we'll make this very engaging. And let's just get started real quick. Bo, you ready?
Perfect.
Yes. All right. Let's
roll.
This going. All right. All right. So first, when we start talking about A11, and we make this question, why this matters? Why is this so important? Well, first of all, a lot of these damages that happen that we see when we're doing excavation, it all starts with a broken link, right? It all starts because something in the communication between excavators and their manager and the people that put the tickets in the office, something happens, something breaks, right? And sometimes that happens because there's a missing ticket. An excavator was digging without a ticket, and therefore pretty much is digging blind. So there's no way he can determine or know where those lines are on the ground, right? So a missing ticket is probably one of the first causes that makes that link to break, and therefore causes a damage eventually. Another element that can break that link of communication is a vague scope, not knowing exactly how much of an area you need, or if you need a little more and you didn't request it, or you didn't put a ticket for that type of scope. That sometimes can also lead to a breaking a link in the communication, and something eventually will turn into an incident. A response that is not checked. Now, and when we talk about a response not checked, we're talking about positive response, not checking that positive response, not checking those details that sometimes operators leave, or sometimes a locator. Sometimes we have to really, and I want to say sometimes, every time we want to check those positive response, make sure that we know the information that we're getting, and that we're understanding what we're doing and what we're dealing with when it comes to excavation. And that a crew is not informed. This is a very important one. Sometimes all the information was put in. Everybody seems to kind of knowing what they're doing, but the crew doesn't really know some of the details, and that sometimes can lead again to breaking a link and causing a damage. And last, not digging safely around buried utilities, not respecting the tolerance zone, using heavy equipment inside the tolerance zone, and therefore heading a line and creating damage.
New details this morning about the house explosion that killed a utility worker.
Let me go back real quick. Because I don't want you to show you guys the video right away. I'm going to show you guys a video about an incident that happened because A11 wasn't somebody didn't put a ticket to contact A11. There was no communication, and then this crew was performing a job that was in California in 2019. Murrieta, the city, it was an hour away from San Diego. The person was putting up a fence, had a gas line, and then that caused an explosion. Now I'm going to show you guys the video so you guys can see what happened and why it's so important to follow the A11 nationwide, especially here in Oklahoma.
New details this morning about the house explosion that killed a utility worker and injured more than a dozen people. CBS Tina Patel is live in Murrieta with an update. Tina, good morning.
So many people affected by this explosion. You can see that this house behind me was leveled, but there were several others red tagged. Families not sure when they'll be able to come back home.
It really did seem almost like a war zone. There was just, the roofing was everywhere. Glass was everywhere.
Homeowners in this Murrieta neighborhood are still trying to process what happened yesterday. An explosion caused by a ruptured gas line that destroyed one home and damaged a dozen more.
You actually could feel the shock of the explosion and the house move and the neighborhood just shake. You know, and that's how huge this explosion was. It was massive.
Neighbors tell us the woman who had just moved into this home had gotten her kids out, but had gone back inside when the explosion occurred. Somehow she escaped with only minor injuries.
I did get to speak with her just a couple of minutes. I was trying to help someone else out at the time, but she was very shooken up. She just did not know what to do.
15 people in all were hurt with different levels of cuts and burns. Many of them, including 3 firefighters, have been released from the hospital now, but one Southern California gas employee did not make it.
My husband did see the body, and he told me, and I just, my heart broke.
The company is not releasing the employee's name yet, only saying he worked for them for 14 years. They say this loss is hitting them hard, especially because it appears that the contractors who accidentally cut the gas line had not alerted the gas company before they began working.
When we look at something that could have been prevented by simply following the law and simply following a process that has been into place, yes, there are a lot of emotions that I'm sure a lot of people are going through right now.
Investigators have not determined whether charges will be filed yet. Neighbors say someone needs to be held accountable.
They really need to follow, you know, the procedures and get a permit. You know, I don't know what these people were thinking. You know, it's just very sad that happened.
We reached out to the company that was installing solar panels here on this home, but they have not gotten back to us yet.
Well, you guys saw what happened in Murrieta a couple years ago. Very unfortunate that somebody died and didn't make it home. So that's the reason why we're doing these type of trainings every year, all year round. It's because we're gonna make that message strong when it comes to everyone. One, we want to make sure that you guys understand that it's about being safe at the end of the day, trying to keep your job in a safe environment, right? That you, as an excavator, you make it home at the end of the day. That you, when you're working at an excavation area, that you not only are having the safety tools and all that stuff that is needed, but also that your crew is being safe when it comes to this job. That we want to make you guys understand that damages can be fixed, but when it comes to life, that's a different story, right? We want to make sure that you guys are always trying to do a safe job and that you guys make it home to your family, because life is very important, and we always want to keep that message for you guys that don't understand that at the end of the day, it's about doing the right thing and following procedures, so we don't have this type of incidents. If you guys want to leave any comments about that case, any particular things that you guys may think, what you guys thought about the video, and I don't know, maybe any comments that you guys think, hey, what do you guys think it could have been done different? You guys can leave it on the chat as well, and we'll definitely consider those comments. So now let's keep moving forward. What does OK811 do as a communication center? So we, as a communication center, we're the statewide notification center here in the state of Oklahoma. We process local requests for excavation statewide. Pretty much what we do, we connect excavators and utility operators, and we route local requests to participating members' utilities. Pretty much we get the information from the excavator where this person is has the intention to dig. We get all the information from the excavator, we send it to the utility operators, and therefore the utility operator sends or dispatches a locator to locate and mark those lines, so the excavator can prevent hitting those lines and also staying safe. And one of the biggest things that we do as an organization, we support public education and provide training on safe digging and legal compliance. We do this all year round. We do it online, we do it in person, we do it as people request it. If they need a training, we go all the different towns here in the state if we need to. We also do it in Spanish. So for those who have crews that speak Spanish, we also provide training in person in Spanish. We also have a ton of resources in Spanish as well, like the guide. You can find it online as well. We also have our new A11 certification training online in Spanish now on the training website, on the link. If you guys need that link for the A11 training in Spanish for those crews that speak Espanol, please let us know. We can send it on the chat, and you guys can start sharing that link as well. What is something that OK1 does not do, just like that girl, the blonde girl is saying? Does not mark or locate lines. We don't do that. We're just a communication center with the messenger. We also do not mark or locate private lines. It's always been a misconception as well. People think that we are the ones who go out and Bo, I don't think Bo doesn't do any of that stuff.
Oh, no.
We don't mark or locate any of the private lines. And we also don't own or operate underground utilities. So people also think that sometimes we have some, I don't know, we possess underground utilities and we can make decisions. So we don't do any of that. We just get the information from the excavators that wants to dig, and we send it to those operators. That's all we do. And we can assist with information and obviously about the law, but that's pretty much what we do all year round. Now, kind of went too fast on the slide, but I'm showing you guys a digital map of all the underground assets in the state of Oklahoma. You guys are seeing as it goes kind of fast, all the utilities, right? All like electric, gas, water. And you guys seeing where they are in the state. You guys can see how much underground infrastructure is in the state of Oklahoma. You guys gonna see that at the very end, all of it pretty much, all painted, if you want to call it. It almost looks like a kid with a crayon, start painting all the state. But that means how much underground infrastructure is. And that's why it's so important to contact A11 before digging, because the chances of hitting a line are pretty high. I think it's a national statistic that every 6 minutes in the United States, a line gets hit. That's how important it is to contact A11. We want to make sure that you guys know where you guys are digging, and again, protect the underground and obviously protect you guys so you guys don't get get hurt or something worse can happen. Now I'm gonna turn it to my colleague, William Bohana, who's gonna start with the 5 steps of safe digging. He's gonna start with step 1 and 2. Bo, the floor is all yours.
Yes.
I'm gonna give you the chair here that we have.
We're gonna change places.
Yeah, and he's gonna start with step 1, plan and prepare, and why it's so important to know that before you submit a local request.
Perfect. So, very important key piece to any project, of course, is to plan effectively. If you fail to plan to fail, right? So, before submitting a ticket, it's important to get all kinds of information in, right? So, this is where a lot of problems can start well before digging begins. So, before submitting a ticket at all, you must take time to identify where you will be digging, when you're going to dig. Consider walking the site, looking for signs of potential hazards, not only utilities themselves, but environmental hazards as well. You want to understand exactly what you're doing and considering all kinds of potential issues that can come up. If it's weather, because it is Oklahoma, and give it 5 minutes, it'll change. Considering potential access issues is important as well, because locators need to go in and get their job done. So if you're working out in, let's say, a rural area, there's livestock, that can be an access issue for that locator. Of course, you want to gather all of your details to make a complete and accurate locate request, location, driving directions, what type of work you plan to do, all of that. So let's jump into inspecting the work site while you're planning. What sets you up for success here? It is an industry best practice to observe at least 50 feet in all directions from where you plan to excavate for any of those potential hazards. You're looking for meters, conduit, you're looking for rattlesnake dens, anything that could come up and make the whole job a little bit more complicated, right? Again, checking for those hazards early, and it's all about preventing surprises. Walking the site with anybody, any experience level, it's good to have those different perspectives, right? Getting more eyes on the area, and someone might spot something that you didn't even know. So more eyes will help to prevent those surprises and foreseeing what obstacles might come up, right? So it's all about getting that observation in and starting that documentation. So talking a little bit more about that documentation, you want to do your homework, right? This is still planning and preparing, getting those land records, GIS maps, survey drawings, plat maps, and you can request those through Oki as well. But having that information is going to help set up the next steps to be successful. You won't always know what's below, right? This is why it's important to pothole and plan effectively when working around utilities. But these tools can help you to identify those potential facilities in that area. A big one that we'd like to talk about as well that is very important is to document, right? We want to make sure that we have our job hazard analysis, our emergency action plan. You want to make sure that your SOPs are ready to go. I know it's a lot of buzzwords and jargon, but it is important and it does have its place on the work site. Having that documentation and having a timeline can help if something does happen and there is an issue. Who do we contact? What do we need to do? What steps have been taken afterwards? So all of that documentation can help all of that known, or all the things that you found about that site, to be more easily communicated. Still planning, I know we're getting through our first step here, but we'll want to consider right before any of the project work goes on that the area is prepared, right? Locators, we've had several conversations with locators about not being able to mark a site effectively because the grass was too high or because there was debris after a storm, something along those lines. So making sure that that work zone, that area, is clear of those obstacles, those boundaries are marked, and that your terrain is adequate for what you are going to be doing your work in. Of course, verifying your requirements, making sure that the permits, easements, restrictions, whatever you might have with a municipality or region, having all of your documentation, remember, document, having all of that prepared before digging occurs. Again, having a plan, very important. Emergency action plans save lives. Accidents happen. Having steps to address that is very important. Of course, planning effectively is all about mitigating those accidents, mitigating those hazards, making sure that everything can go as streamlined as possible. But like I said, accidents do happen, and we're at that time of year where we're hitting triple digits. And if you're working outside, heat stress related incidents occur quite a bit. So emergency action plans are always helpful for a variety of issues. Now, white lining, and I'm going to ask you all to participate in the chat here. White lining the site using paint flags, other approved methods to mark a proposed dig area. How many of you white line? It is an industry best practice to white line. It's not a requirement, but it does help to give a specific dedicated space for your excavation, as well as it shows those locators exactly where you plan to work. So let's look at a couple of those examples real quick for that white lining. So these are the three main examples, right? We have point radius, linear path, and perimeter. So that point radius, that's great for installing a mailbox or planting a tree. It's just a single point that you use a white flag, or a great example, we were having a discussion with someone, and they said that they just put a soda bottle on a tree because they were planning to remove that tree. And it's something identifiable. It's something that they communicated with the locator that, oh, this is my quote unquote white lining, because it is very noticeable. And so it can be another approved method of identification of where that area is going to be. Linear path, great for French drain. It is what it sounds like. You're just putting a line down and saying, if I'm putting in a French drain or an irrigation system, I'm going to mark out where that system is going to go in. I probably need about 2 feet either side of where the markings are. And then perimeter all within, pretty standard. Great for a foundation, right? It's mark everything within this box or this shape that I'm going to be installing a pool, putting in a shed, something that you can use more of a larger mass for, right? Now, what about private lines? You know, talking about putting in that irrigation system or French drain, etc. There are a variety of private lines that can affect an excavation, right? That could be electrical lines from the house to an outbuilding. This could be gas or electric lines for heating a pool. It could be water lines for that irrigation system that we were just talking about. Propane lines to grills or in rural areas, even to houses. Any kind of lines that go after the meter that are the homeowner or landowner's responsibility. Now, talking about them, what do you do around these private lines? Right? You have to have that conversation with the property owner to know where those lines might be and determine whether or not that damaged line can be repaired safely on site, or if a private locator should come in. Now, again, it is very important to have that solid communication if that work is being done. So let's say a contractor suspects a private electric line runs through a backyard to a shed. The homeowner says, yeah, we do have that. So contractor starts the conversation of, well, with that electric line, do we know exactly where it is, how large it is, what can we do to work around that? It is the homeowner's responsibility to bring in a private locator if those lines need to be worked around. So having that communication, having that dialogue is very important, that those lines are the property owner's responsibility. Now, in the planning phase, Oki has a couple of options for requests. For instance, pre-excavation meetings can be done online through the excavator portal, and we'll go through making a ticket here in the next step. But here's a couple things to keep in mind when it comes to planning. So not all projects are the same, right? But having a pre-excavation meeting helps you to coordinate with utility operators. This is a great option for large projects that will be multi-phase or will take longer periods of time. It helps to clarify that kind of work and scope that's going to be going on with those projects, with those utility operators in the area, and have discussions about those conflicts that can arise from that, if there are certain junctions that come through or items like that. Again, all of these resources, and Oki really wants to share with you that we want to be a resource for everyone in safe excavation. So this kind of resource can help prevent delays and surprises. Consider a pre-excavation meeting when you're doing a large project or a multi-phase project, maybe unusual conditions, long timelines. This will help clarify a lot of that communication. Now we also have design survey notice. This is also only available through the portal, but like we were saying, getting those maps, getting the information for that area, getting it surveyed, quote unquote, with markings or maps can be very helpful for when you are designing, right? This helps you to identify those utilities before that design, before the project really begins. And it's not a dig ticket. This is just an information ticket. So it supports that project planning and engineering. It supports the information of that area. Again, this is all about being a resource, reducing those potential conflicts, reducing those potential delays when you are working through a project. So another great resource for planning. We're not too certain if y'all are the ones who are putting in the tickets, or if there's someone in the office putting in the tickets, or it's someone in the field putting in the tickets. But if there is a split in communication between the person in the field and maybe someone in the office who is putting the tickets, then it is important to be on the same page. Again, we've had a lot of conversations in the past year or so about communication is one of the biggest driving things for safety, and being complete and accurate with information is very important for that safety. So before any locate request can be submitted, everybody needs to be on the same page, right? If your crew member understands something, but it's not being communicated up to the office, again, this is if there is a divide in who is submitting those tickets. The boots on the ground know exactly what's going on. And so having that communicated and translated correctly and fully is very important. So if that office person is submitting a ticket, they need everything from boots on the ground. A crew or project lead should explain the scope, location, what work is being done, what expectations there are. If the person submitting the ticket isn't asking questions for clarification, they should be asking questions for clarification. The best practice is to have the field contact, the individual in the field who's doing the work or leading that crew, put in the ticket. But both sides should confirm and agree on all details if there is a split If someone else is submitting the ticket, everybody should be on the same page. So this is pretty much how that chain looks when you're talking about effective planning. You know, if this is the standard chain, right? The field contact knows what the scope is. Whoever is sending in that locate request needs to translate all of that information, and translating that information, submitting the ticket, going into 811, right? Putting in all that information to distribute to those operators. And then the operators respond, all the crews communicate, right? You're getting that positive response, and everything's verified. Now, if that communication starts to fall apart between that field contact and somebody else requesting, then the rest of the chain goes. Now the information is skewed through Oki, through the operators, because information wasn't provided from the beginning. So it is important to be full and complete and having all of that information ready to go all the way down the line. We don't want to let that chain break, right? We want everything to stay connected together throughout. And a huge part of that is full and complete information and planning effectively. So how do most of these damages happen? It can happen with a bad scope. Again, not having that clear communication streamlined through, not checking responses, not having that affirmed communication with a locator, with the operator, with Oki, making sure that you have full and complete information and you are being receptive to information coming back. Another huge issue is ignoring the marks. That is a no-go, right? They're there for a reason. They are, in a sense, a form of communication that's saying, hey, there's a hazard potentially here. And so it is important to respect those tolerance zones and that positive response coming through, right? So we've planned, we have our action items ready to go. What is that next step? Of course, it is contacting Oki 811. And there are a couple different ways to contact us, of course, within the state of Oklahoma, calling 811. But one of the most effective ways to contact us is with that excavator portal. So before any excavation begins, you are legally required to notify us at Oki 811 to get that ticket to inform those operators, right? So you can submit that locate request, again, through that excavator portal or by calling in. Again, with that whole planning and preparing, because that is a huge responsibility that comes through and makes all that information complete. You
Right,
need
too much coffee, sorry.
You need to plan effectively to have all of this accurate information. Now, when you're making a ticket, you have to include those details like location, type of work, start time, who's that work for, who's that field contact. You need to have full and complete information. So we'll look at some ticket types, right? Like a normal compliant ticket, this is the standard locate request that is submitted before any excavation. It's used for non-emergencies, right? It has a specific scope with project start and estimated completion. And a normal compliant ticket must be submitted 3 to 10 business days before that shovel goes into the ground, right? Or that bucket goes into the ground. The normal compliant ticket is valid for 14 calendar days. That is not 14 business days. That is 14 calendar days from the start time. So what is required for a locate request? Contact information. You need to provide the name, your name, if you're submitting that ticket. That field contact, who's your boots on the ground? If it's you, excellent. That information's in. But this is someone who's going to be on the site, has knowledge of the site, has access to the site in case a locator can't access the area. Of course, company details in itself, what company is doing the digging, the address of that company, phone number, means of contact. You need to have that exact location, having the address, describing the coordinates and driving directions to that exact spot where you plan to do the work. That work description itself, what type of work is it? Is it trenching, boring, grading, blasting? The area extent itself, what's the linear footage? Tickets themselves have an extent limit, right? In incorporated areas, you can't go over 500 linear feet for a ticket and up to 1 mile in unincorporated rural areas per request. So when making a ticket, consider exactly where you plan to work, because that's going to make the locate much smoother. That's going to help with the project scope itself. So consider exactly where that work is going to be and plan it out on the ticket. Any kind of special considerations. Note if explosives, boring, if you're using white lining, if you're planning or have noticed access issues, again, planning ahead and seeing what could be these special considerations is very important. And a great example I love to use is one of my best friends ever. She pretty much has her own zoo at her house. And she gardens, she has a whole bunch of animals, all these kinds of things. She fostered skunks for a few months. And if I were a locator or if I were someone going in and doing the work, I would definitely want to know on my ticket if someone has a skunk farm, right? So have those special considerations in mind. We don't want anybody walking in and being surprised by a skunk farm. Of course, having your planned start and estimated completion date. When is that work going to begin? When are you going to be taking that tree out? When do you think you're going to be done taking that tree out or planting a whole garden, putting in a French drain? When do you plan on having that corridor run? So when do you plan to start? When do you plan to finish that work? So again, that planned extent, we're talking about all this planning for that start, the first 2 steps. All of your planning and communicating that through your ticket is very, very important. So excavator should request locates for work that is actually being worked on or planned to be worked on. So we can accept the planned start date up to 10 business days in advance. Again, those locate requests are only valid for 14 calendar days if that is a normal compliant ticket or an update ticket. Repeated requests for inactive or untouched areas may be considered excessive or unreasonable. According to the Oklahoma Underground Facilities Damage Prevention Act, an operator may recover its cost from an excavator for excessive and unreasonable request. Now, we got to mention here that putting in a ticket for an excavator, it's free, right? But there's still a cost to it. There's still a shared cost where the operators need to have the locators come out, have that equipment to get those lines if their locators are in-house or if they have to contract them. So those costs behind the scenes are pretty real. So make sure that when you're submitting that ticket, if you are the excavator, you are making sure that the scope of the ticket reflects the actual work being done, not taking up a whole city block for running 5 foot of conduit or replacing a sidewalk or whatever it may be that is that specific type of work. But making sure that it is within that ticket, that area, everything is being communicated effectively. So each excavator company or contractor doing excavation must have their own separate dig ticket covering that specific activity. If you have someone on the work site, an electric subcontractor coming in and they're doing their work, and maybe it's for a residential area, maybe it's for a business, and they're running their lines and a plumber is coming in or someone who's working in a whole nother scope, they need to have their own ticket for that specific activity. This is documentation. Again, document, document, document. This is going to help with clarifying needs of that area, what kind of work is going on. If there's a shift in scope, you need to have your own ticket. Now, maybe the project does not happen, right? You may cancel your locate request by contacting us and letting us know, hey, you know, we've shifted the tone in the work. We can't get this done right now. Let's go ahead and cancel it. And then if you are coming back to that work later, totally fine. But if that work isn't going to happen, let's go ahead and cancel that ticket so it's not using all of those resources and that other individuals who are getting work done have that priority in the system. So, are there any questions or comments? Are we looking good? All right, let's go ahead and take a quick 10-minute break, and we will come back at, let's say,
9:25.
9:25. Perfect. We'll come back at 9:25.
We'll mute our mics and then we'll come back with step 3, 4, and 5 and a small activity that we'll have at the end, and then certification test.
Excellent.
So we'll see you, or we'll rejoin at 9:25. All right, we're back from the break. Thank you so much again for being in this presentation, this virtual day, this 811 certification, first part of the training. I like the comments that people are leaving in the chat. Please keep doing so. If you have any questions or any comments, please keep. Thank you, Damson. Yeah, it's great to be back every time. So let's keep going on this 5 steps. So both mentioned step 1 and step 2, right? Step 1, you prepare, you plan, you do all the preparation for your project, right? You make sure that you have all the requirements, you have your emergency action plan, your job hazard analysis, you know any potential hazards that can occur, you know the air is clear from any debris or any other buried utilities. You know your site better than anything, just like you know your ID. Then you go to step 2, right? You go and contact 811. That's the step that follows right after you have everything prepared, everything planned. You contact 811. You give all that information just like you know it, with giving the information of the person that has all the knowledge of the work site, that excavator. Everybody's in the same page. The person in the office, the project leader, the manager, and the people that are actually doing the job. So everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. If there's any questions, it should have been answered before submitting that local request. So, you know, that will allow to prevent any potential delays, right? So again, now we're ready. After step 2, we're waiting that sweet wait, like we call it, right? Wait the required time. The law says we have to wait 48 hours, you know, counting the day that you submit the local request, you know, counting holidays and weekends. So we have to wait those 48 hours. And we always say, sorry, I was kind of like going too fast. We always said, try to submit local requests 3 to 10 business days. Is that correct, Bo? 3 to 10 business days. We try to like always do it as much time as possible.
As much time as possible. That will help with the locators making it onto the site and providing those marks for you.
Correct. Yeah. So we want to give as much time as possible to those locators to go. They're all over the place. The locators, they're like attending emergencies, multiple projects. So, you know, if we give more time to those locators, the better. Again, we want to let everybody know that this is a job that needs to be in collaboration, right? We all need one another to be able to do this the most efficient way. Let's keep moving forward. Let's talk first a little bit about the facilities operators' responsibilities. They have to participate in the statewide one call notification center. Obviously, us, OK11, they need to be part of us so they can provide the information that is needed. They also have to keep their maps updated within the digital service area boundaries up to date in the OK1 system. They have to keep those underground facilities that they own updated so excavators know what they're digging, making sure that they don't hit a line that, you know, for example, a line that was not registered within the 811 service. And, you know, then it becomes an issue, right? All those abandoned lines as well, they need to also keep those maps updated if they're no longer have any active lines. So they always, the operator has to be proactive in keeping their underground assets up to date so excavators know as well, right? And then none of those undergrounds get damaged. Keep facility coverage and contact information current. That always is important. Sometimes people leave jobs, right? And sometimes the contact information can no longer be the same. So we want to make sure that those contact informations are current in case there's, you know, somebody needs to contact this company, the excavator, and they get a hold of the right person. Again, keeping those informations updated is always important. The facility operators also need to mark or otherwise provide the approximate location of underground facilities. They have to make sure that they know where their underground assets are. I know it won't be exact, but they have to have a really close idea where their underground facilities will be. That way, that locator can, you know, try to get the approximate location better, and also will help the excavator avoiding hitting those lines. And also they need to dispatch personnel promptly when damage is reported, especially if it's something that is important, like, well, everything, all the underground facilities are important, but let's say it's a gas line, I'd have to have somebody ready to make sure that they can, see what happened, kind of supervise and make sure that, you know, what kind of damage was. If there's an emergency, they also have to have that personnel ready to go ahead and fix any type of emergencies. Locators. So we have The utility operators, and we also have locators. Sometimes these operating companies, member service companies, they have their own locating team. Sometimes they use third parties. But it depends. But locators, their responsibility is to mark accurately. They have to locate and mark underground facilities using the correct color codes and within the legal timeframes. Within those 48 hours, they have to make sure that they use the right colors to identify the underground utilities. Respond promptly. They have to provide an official response to every locator request. It could be a comment like, or a response like mark, clear, or no conflict. Well, they do have to do that. That will help the excavator know what they're dealing with. Again, it's important that the locators, or they have to, it's part of their responsibility to provide a response, but the excavator has to check the responses and understand the responses, right? Making sure that they know what is being said from those locators or the utility operator. Stay reachable. Make sure that the right contact person is available to answer questions and coordinate the locate. They have to have a person or their phone. They have to put their phone numbers or provide their phone contact information on those responses in case the excavator is going on the side and they're having, for example, sometimes happens that the excavator is digging and they can't find the line. Sometimes it happens, human mistake. The marks are being way off from where they're supposed to be, where the underground facility is. So that's the moment when the excavator needs to stop, right? They have to stop excavating and they have to reach out to that locator and say, hey, you know what? I've been digging for hours. I cannot find this line. Can you please come back and remark? That's what we need to do. We can't just keep going and going and going because those are the chances that are going to be higher to hit a line. So again, contact information from that locator is important to be on those responses. Now let's go to weather required time. After submitting your locator request, do not begin excavation until work to begin date and time listed on that request, right? You have to wait the 48 hours until all those utility operators have responded, have marked, and then you're good to start, right? Obviously, you have to start with the date that you put on the ticket, right? If you say you're gonna start, let's say tomorrow, let's say July 16th, 10 a.m., that's the time that you should start with your project. The minimum notice required is 48 hours and has to exclude weekends, holidays, and date of notification. Digging before the valid start time is a violation of the state law, right? You don't want to start before potentially hitting an underground facility or underground line, and then that the whole legal battle could start and get make it a little more complicated. So you always want to take the time, be patient, not start right away if you see that everything's looks good to go. You could, but you shouldn't, right? You're always increasing the risk of hitting a line. Tickets may be future dated to align with the project timeline, but the start time on the request is your legal start point, not just a 48-hour wait. So always keep that in mind. So this example that I'm showing you guys here on the graphic is just a week, like the days of the week, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And it kind of tells you or shows you the days that, if you submit a ticket on a Monday, that means that Tuesday and Wednesday Monday doesn't count. Wednesday is your 48 hours. The earliest date that you can start is on Thursday. Same with Tuesday. Same with Tuesday. Tuesday doesn't count. Wednesday and Thursday is your 48 hours, and then Friday is your legal start date. But then Wednesday gets kind of tricky. So I wanted to make sure that you guys understand sometimes the days of the weeks can make a little bit of change in your project start. Wednesday, let's say you submit a ticket on Wednesday, it's a date of notification, that doesn't count. Then you have Thursday and Friday, you have 48 hours. But your legal start date could be Saturday, technically, right? You could start working on Saturday, but the actual start will be, I mean, Monday. So, but you could technically start on a Saturday, right? On the weekend. So keep that in mind. Again, this is just to give you an idea when it comes to putting tickets throughout the week. What the ticket has to be corrected? Well, if everything goes according to the plan, you submitted a ticket on Tuesday, your legal start is on Friday. That means that the ticket is accurate and accepted. All the information was right. It was everything that you provided looked correct, especially the scope and all the information that you needed looks good to go. You're good. But if there's a correction on Thursday, your start date will be on a Tuesday. So that will turn into a 4-day delay from a problem that could have been caught in planning. And that happens a lot. Sometimes, everything looks good, but then something just gets pushed back, and then that just delays the whole project. So to avoid that, it's always good to, revise the ticket. And again, we go back to the information in the planning stage when you're trying to get everything ready, and then ready to submit the ticket, contact 811. We always want to make sure that we all understand, right, what the project is about and what's about to happen, so you don't get these type of delays, and then you get the pushback. The crew cannot start until you actually have that ticket. So always let's be proactive when it comes to that, and that way we can work with the schedule that we have in mind, right? With the due date that we have in our plans. Step 4, confirm response and respect markings. This is getting closer to step 5, right? You're almost getting there, right? One more step after this. Okay, confirm response and respect markings. This is very important. Again, before you dig, use a positive response system to verify that every notified operator has responded. That's on your mobile, right? You can check your positive response on the OK11 portal. You cannot assume. It's your legal duty to check. Yeah, and that's very important. You don't want to assume things. Never assume. You never know what could happen. You want to make sure that you check that positive response as an excavator. Is your legal duty, is your responsibility. Again, you could be the excavator on site and not knowing that response because maybe the office staff was the one who submitted the ticket, that person, and he or she gave the information to the manager, to the crew leader, right? Now, this crew leader knows all the information about the responses. He has to give that information to the actual excavator who's doing the job. So again, we're going back to that chain, that communication. We have to make sure that that information gets to the excavator, that he knows our responses. Now, it's really important to confirm and protect all pane, flags, and markings on site, right? Despite of not knowing the information, if you see the pane or the flags and markings, always respect those. Those are your eyes when it comes to excavation. If you don't have those markings, you're digging blindly. If the marks are missing or unclear, you go and request a remark before continuing. Now, if you have a project and everything is marked and everything looks good, but one side of that project, of that work site, is not marked anymore because it got, the wind blew it away, or something happened, a rain. You can still work where things are marked, but on that specific part of the work site, you have to submit a remark and wait until it gets remarked again so you can continue. Again, you can still work where things are being marked, no where things are not marked anymore. So just to keep that in mind. Positive response, and we kind of changed this a little bit. We used to have just like a response, but we wanted to give you guys an idea of how to kind of visualize it in your head when it comes to the responses. Almost like a stoplight. You got green, yellow, and red. And when you have these type of responses clear from those operators, that means that you are good to go. You're good. I'm gonna go and excavate, right? Site mark, that means that your site was marked. Partially marked or large project, you're good to go too as well. But the operator has to leave a specific comment, right? This must be a comment related to that response. But again, because you're seeing these responses, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, everything will look just fine on the work site. So you always want to make sure that what you see on your response on your portal, you can see it physically, right, at the work site, and make sure that it, you know, kind of correlates with what you're seeing. Ticket type extend, you can't yet. You have to wait when that the update kicks in. And watch and protect, this is a very particular one for those who work near regulated gas lines. Watch and protect, the operator is gonna put the information of a representative of that company, that gas company, to be on site supervising the job. The excavator has to coordinate with this representative from this gas company to be on the site to explain whatever is happening, because they obviously want to protect their underground, and that's between the excavator and the representative, that they have to agree on when to meet and time, etc. And again, what Bo said earlier, document everything. Keep documentation of your communications between that representative in case something happens. You have that as backup. And pretty much red, like you can't start. When you have no access, no mark, that means that the operator or the locator in this case could not access a site. Maybe there was a lock gate or there was animals or something. They can't access. They won't be able to mark. They will leave that as in the comments. The excavator needs to fix that, right, and try to make that accessible for that locator to come in. Correction required, not mark. That means the ticket is pushed back. There was something wrong with the ticket. It needs to be fixed. Cancel is just pretty much you just canceling the ticket, and no response at all from the locator. Let's move forward. Now you're gonna see here how a response, a ticket will look like, or on the positive response when it comes to the ticket. You guys can see in this slide that AT&T did not respond, but you have Oklahoma Natural Gas did, and they left a comment. Want to make sure that we always read those comments. Clear facility, it's not in conflict, but the site described on the ticket, and it has like some of the other comments, and also you have OG&E. It says site mark, facility located and marked at the site, and they also say please call your assigned locator. So that information is always important to read it and make sure that you understand what they're saying, and have those locators information in hand just in case you need to contact that locator. Look for status codes like mark, no conflict, clear, or wrong address. That could happen. If any are missing or unclear, do not dig. Again, if you sense or your feelings or your gut is telling you, you know what, there's something that is not making sense here, please stop. That's the recommendation. Stop digging, contact the operator, contact OK11, or if there's a number on your response, please contact that person so you can have more clarification. Use the OK11 portal to verify in real time. And again, this is just a message. Digging cannot begin until all responses are confirmed. So always confirm your responses before you actually start digging. Watch and protect means stop and coordinate. And this is just a graphic, 10 feet. That's their pretty much what they want, right? When it comes to their underground gas facilities, they want 10 feet outside of the wall or edge of the underground infrastructure, so they can protect it even more. Again, you want to use self-digging methods. You don't want to use any heavy equipment. You don't want to hit a gas line, right? That's then you can, and we're not going to talk about OCC that much, but then you're going to have OCC coming in and do an investigation, and it could take a while. Second and third notices. If one or more facility operators have not responded via positive response or mark, a second or third notice can be sent through OK11. Used to request compliance, not to extend the ticket's lifespan. Always check status on your ticket. And I kind of went too fast. Again, if you haven't get one of the members have not give you a response and have not marked your site, you have to submit a second and eventually a third notice just to get, so we can contact that member and say, hey, you know what, you haven't marked this area, you have not given any response. So we do remind members as well that, hey, it's part of the responsibilities to respond those local requests that have been submitted as well. State of emergency, we live in a state that things, weather it can be tricky. We can get a lot of rain, tornadoes, you name it. So we always have to keep an eye on state of emergencies if they happen. I think it was a bad, you guys can leave it on the comment. I think it was bad storm in Norman that had a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know how bad it was from what people that I know in Norman, it ended up being really bad. So probably in that area, operators are not required to respond within normal time frame. That's what happens when it comes to state of emergency. If that was declared state of emergency, I don't think it was, but if it's declared state of emergency, like, and I can't remember a town recently. Bo, do you remember any town? Maybe was it Enid? Mm-hmm. Probably it was state of emergency. Yeah. So it's a state of emergency. Like example, in Enid a couple of months ago, operators are not required to respond because they're attending that emergency to restore the services, right? Excavators cannot submit second and third notices for non-response. If a ticket expires, it may be updated, but delays are expected. Utility will respond once restoration and emergency priorities are addressed. Again, it will take time, a little bit. You have to be patient that all these the set of emergencies being addressed, the services are being restored, and as things are starting to be better, locators will start responding to those local requests. So patience is key when it comes to set of emergency, and obviously it's understandable. Markings: the operator of the underground facility will mark the approximate horizontal location of the underground facility using the standard APAW color code, the American Public Workers Association. So again, it's not exact. You will never get the depth, the direction, or the, I always forget one, the 3Ds. Direction,
distance.
Yeah. So always keep an eye on that. Undergrounds can be cross. They have different, how do you call that, Bo? Like they can go different directions.
Yep.
Different depth. So you will never have that on your responses. So keep that in mind.
That's why potholing is so important.
Correct. Locating and marking, not an exact science. Use hand dog test holes. Take your time. Try to expose that line, protect it and support it when you actually can see it. Make sure that you don't use any heavy equipment. And deal with caution. Take your time. Don't rush. Sometimes problems happen when we're rushing, trying to get everything fixed and be done on time. And here's the colors. Just quick brief. Red is electric, orange telecom, fiber. Fiber, it's all over the place now.
Fiber.
Yellow is gas and oil, green sewer and drain, blue water, purple reclaim irrigation, white proposed excavation. It's an important one, even though it's not it's a mandatory, but that helps locators to identify where the proposed excavation is going to be. So again, if you have the chance to white line an area, please do so. That will really help the locators to find those underground lines. And big is survey. Respect markings. The marks must remain visible. A valid unexpired locate ticket must be on site. Always have that ticket number with you just in case something happens. Take a screenshot, write it down, have all that information in hand. Like Bo says again, document. It's kind of like his
motto.
Yeah, his motto. Yeah,
My motto.
document. If marks are not found where expected, excavation must stop, and the facility operator must be contacted via the notification center. And I said this a little earlier. If you've seen something wrong, if you can't find the line, please stop. Take the time to go contact OK 811 and say, hey, I've been trying to read. I've been digging for a while. Can we reach out to the locator? And if the locator left that information in the response, please contact directly that locator and let them know, the facility operator, whoever company that is in that response, please contact that person and let them know, hey, I need to get this on the ground remarked again. So work authority, you have the right to stop work if there you have a safety concern or question. And step 5, dig safely. Bo is going to take over this last step.
Excellent. I'm on my way. Change places. Awesome. And of course, so we've gone through all of our steps up to this point, right? We've planned effectively for our excavation. We've submitted our ticket by contacting 811. We've waited the required time, confirmed that positive response. Now you're ready to start digging, right? So we need to dig safely. The tolerance zone in Oklahoma is 24 inches from the outside edge of any marked underground facility. So that tolerance zone is the area around that utility. So within this area, you must use hand tools or non-mechanized methods. So this is a shovel, a spade, something that does not have a motor, right? Visually confirming the exact location before using machinery. You must be able to see it, support it, and secure it before using any machinery around that utility. Of course, proceed slowly and cautiously. Damage often occurs from rushing in that tolerance zone. So part of my background, I did some certification in law enforcement a long time ago, and a topic that we talked about quite a bit was don't create an emergency, responding to an emergency, right? So don't think that those time constraints for a project and using that kind of time constraint as an excuse to rush in the tolerance zone, it could create a whole nother issue. So be sure to take your time in that tolerance zone to work effectively. So let's look at an example of what that tolerance zone looks like, right? So over here we have our excavator. He's using a hand shovel to work towards that utility. And you can see the tolerance zone is defined here with those spacers, but machinery must be used outside of that tolerance zone. And again, just using those hand digging, soft digging techniques. It is important to pothole within these areas as well. You can see that the surface marks aren't going to be exactly where that utility is. So consider your utility marks as that primary generalized concept of where your utility is, and pothole within that area to locate that utility, and try to do that every so many feet to find that direction in depth and be sure that all of that is visualized before using any other methods. But of course, you must secure, visualize, and support those lines if you are planning to use machinery around those utilities. All right, so you're digging, you're working on your project. Maybe a couple of things happen, like, again, good old Oklahoma weather, and you need to update your ticket, right? So you have options of remark or extend. So a remark is if this excavation needs to go on for another few days outside of the life of your ticket, this will update the ticket. For a remark, this is, you're still working in the same area, you still have the same scope, still working on everything that was put in the original ticket, but your marks have become faded or disturbed. They're unclear. You can't recognize them immediately. This is when a remark would be valuable. Do not start any work until those marks are refreshed. So if you are working in a specific area and it's rained, you need to re-excavate, you need to restabilize the area, and those marks have washed away, this is a great opportunity for that remark. And you need to make sure that you can visualize everything so that that work can continue as safely as possible. This just ensures that continued accuracy for, again, that safety. This is to give us those steps and measures so we aren't digging blindly, right? Now, an extend is very similar. This is if that work is still ongoing and you need some additional time within that original ticket. Both of these tickets, these updates must be made before that ticket expires. Again, you're trying to give that 3 business day window for those updates to come through. Again, neither one of these updates change that original scope, location, expectations, equipment, everything that is included in that original ticket is still ongoing. With an extend, operators do have the option of returning to the site to remark. Again, big thing to take away with updating tickets. They do not replace the original scope of the ticket. With an extend, this is just everything on the site. Your marks are still good. You just need more time. With a remark, it's I need the area to be updated, make sure that the markings are still clear. A common thing that we see and have discussions about is scope creep. So this happens when the work changes after the ticket has been submitted. It's where the project goes beyond that original description. And you can see here a good little graphic about where that original area for the work was going to be, and then where that scope creep starts to come in. Again, it's that change in the work area, equipment, something has altered from that original ticket. So you need to stay within that ticket, right? Strong planning. We started step 1. This is a big deal in excavation, starting with strong planning to prevent those future issues from occurring, right? Understanding those ticket limitations, using the right ticket at the right time, having all of that planned out ahead of time to prevent delays and damages. Now, what if there is a damage, right? If an underground facility is damaged or compromised, even if there's no visible leak or outage, you must notify that affected utility operator and Okie 811. We only accept damage reports by phone currently, but anything that changes that physical state of the line is considered a damage. So dent, scrape, scratch, any damage to the coating of a line, this is a damage. So it is important to notify the utility operator and Okie 811 when that happens, because that dent or that scrape a few months or a few years later can break down the line and cause an issue later. So it is the responsibility of the excavator, when any damage is observed, to report that. So, for instance, maybe a crew is trenching and it scrapes the coating on a gas line, or you're hand digging and scrape off part of the coating on that gas line. That is a protective coating to keep that line from eroding. It still needs to be reported. Even though it may seem minor, it is something that can affect the line over time. So emergency tickets, this is different from a damage. Emergency locate requests are if you are addressing an emergency, right? This is a situation that poses an immediate threat to life, health, or property. It is important to provide as much notice as possible when you are addressing an emergency. Clearly explain the nature of that emergency and what that threat to life, health, or property looks like. And of course, proceed cautiously and dig carefully. This is where hand digging would be most valuable, because an emergency ticket allows the excavator who's responding to that emergency to dig immediately. By providing as much notice as possible, this is providing those locators and utility operators information and notice to locate that area, but they may have to be dealing with another emergency or having to stop work at one site to come and address that. So there needs to be that threat to life, health, or property, and provide as much notice as possible. If this is after a storm and there is a tree that's about to fall onto a line and that tree needs to be removed, then how much time could you reasonably give? That would be that threat to life, health, or property as its potential to damage a line or damage someone's home or etc. So critical thought with that, what constitutes that threat to life, health, or property, and how much notice can be given. So in emergency situations, we don't like to see them, but sometimes things go wrong. There are certain things that are out of our control sometimes. So what do we need to do when things go wrong? Oklahoma law requires that immediate notification to that facility operator and Okie 811 if damage occurs to a utility. If that damage happens to cause an emergency, like gas release or maybe striking an electric line, things like that, you must notify that operator and Okie 811. So, of course, evacuate the area, contact 911 if there's a release of flammable, toxic, corrosive liquid or gas, notify that utility operator of any facility damage that had been occurring. And then, of course, allow the emergency personnel of that facility to come and handle any kind of damages. Do not try to correct any damages that you may have caused or that may have been caused through other means. Leave that to the professionals. Leave that to the individuals who have the equipment to make that correction or that repair, because they're going to have the tools and the means to make that an effective repair. So we're going to look at another real life scenario real quick to kind of show more depth on what those emergencies
Accidentally cut cable lines are to blame for disrupting hundreds of flights in and out of DFW International Airport and Love Field on Friday. Tonight, the FAA says the problem underscores the need to modernize the nation's air traffic control system. NBC5's Katie Blakey has more on the mess airlines and passengers are still trying to unravel.
With flights back in the air Saturday, inside DFW Airport, airlines and passengers worked to recover from the night before.
It was just kind of a stressful evening for us. I mean, of course it could be our age made it more stressful for us.
The Zimmermans are taking their vacation disruption in stride after a major telecommunications outage caused ground stops and delays at both DFW and Love Field.
We got a message last night saying that our flight had been canceled and that they would notify us of another flight, which they did not, by the way. So then we started scrambling, trying to find another flight.
The FAA is blaming Dallas-based Frontier Communications for multiple failures disrupting radar operations at the Dallas TRACON facility.
The entire Metroplex radar data center.
Located in the middle of DFW Airport, TRACON handles flights coming in and out of the regional airspace before they're handed off to individual airport towers. In a statement, Frontier said, quote, another carrier's third-party contractor working in Argyle accidentally cut our fiber lines. Adding, our team worked overnight, closely coordinating with the FAA and the airports to stabilize the systems.
We stayed pretty much like this, in some section like this, just sitting, waiting.
The outage forced some travelers to stay at the airport all night.
Now we were waiting for a refund to go catch a rhino to head back that way towards Kansas.
One mother became emotional, sharing her frustration stuck in the terminal with her 3 children and their luggage stuck at LaGuardia. Communication issues have hit other airports this year, disrupting travel and strengthening calls for reform. In addition to Friday's cut cables, the FAA said one of its own contractors failed to ensure that redundancies in the system function properly, writing, this is a clear example of the FAA's outdated infrastructure and underscores the urgent need to modernize our air traffic control system.
So here we have a whole different emergency. It's not always an electric strike or gas strike or a water main strike. Even a fiber optic strike can cause massive delays and will require an emergency response. So because these lines were cut, air traffic control systems had big problems. It caused delays, cancellations, flight turnaround. It could have caused even something way worse with collisions because that communication couldn't be had. So it is important, of course, for us to dig safely, right? So let's switch gears real fast and let's consider demolition. Demolition tickets are a little bit different. These require multi-step. And so before any demolition work begins, excavators must obtain that local code and approval of valid permit, submit that demolition notice ticket to OK 811 at least, this is bare minimum, 7 business days in advance. This can be submitted up to 60 business days before that demolition occurs. This notice applies to the intent to demolish. So contacting OKA 11 even if digging isn't planned. If we're just taking down a structure and not having to totally take out anything from the ground, this is still important to contact so we have all the operators in the area on the same page. And then, of course, if excavation has to go along with it, you need to compound with a normal compliant ticket before that demolition occurs. So let's reflect. It is the law. So before you dig, in the Oklahoma Underground Facilities Damage Prevention Act, you must notify OKA 811 before digging, providing that 3 to 10 business days before putting the bucket in the ground or the shovel in the ground. It is the excavator's legal responsibility to check for that positive response before digging, to respect the tolerance zone using soft digging, hand digging methods, non-mechanized within the tolerance zone. And of course, the enforcement authority for safe excavation is not OKA 811, it's the Oklahoma Corporation Commission. So let's take a quick recap of the 5 steps of safe digging, and then we're going to do a little activity before jumping into our exam. So here's a quick recap. Step number 1 was plan and prepare that work site. Walk that site, gather the details that you need, plan and prepare effectively, white lining, having your emergency action plan, job hazard analysis, and timelines, right? Step 2, contacting OKA 811, submitting all of your information that is accurate, full, and complete for your locate request, having the right ticket, and including all those scope items. Step number 3, waiting the required time. That time frame that is given that must be adhered to. Cannot start digging until you've confirmed your positive responses and have your work to start date. So step number 4, confirming those positive responses and communicating that status, making sure that everybody knows on that crew. And then step 5, respecting that tolerance zone, respecting that work to start date, and digging safely, not using those mechanized means. So let's do a quick little activity, and Luis, you got us for responses. Excellent. So meet Marco. We're going to apply these 5 steps of safe digging to Marco's work. So he's looking to manage a pretty big project, right? His project is that he's working in this Maple Industrial Park. They're installing 1,200 foot in a utility corridor. They have a pretty large project, and this goes outside of that ticket scope. So we're going to have to break it down, right? The work includes trenching, potholing, and boring. There are several existing utilities in that area, as you can see on the graphic. And then the site has access limits and multiple crews and equipment, so we need to make note of that going into making a ticket, right? There are going to be handoffs, and so there might be different ticket requirements, different needs, different scopes, right? But we're only focused on phase 1, and we're breaking apart this massive project into one item here. So this is our location at 100 Maple Avenue. The work is going to be a 420-foot trench, maybe a short bore and pot holding. So we're going to focus on just laying this one line in, right? The work area is specifically in that west parking lot. Looks like we have it marked off. There are 2 important concerns here. There is a gate as an access issue and potentially a private line concern. So that communication is coming around. The planned start date is Friday. So that's going to be pretty quick. We're going to have to make sure that that ticket meets those time requirements. We'll use this to apply the 5 steps of safe digging.
All right. So next slide, Bo, would be for you guys to identify those 5 steps in this Marco's phase 1 job. So step 1, who can give me in the chat what is step 1? What do you need to do when it comes to getting ready for a project? I'll give you 5 seconds. If not, I'll give you guys a hint. Bo, give me the first hint. So what's that little guy doing there on that step 1? Anybody can answer? Let's see. Planning, prepare. Good job, Lori. Yeah,
Nice.
Casey, gather details and locations of drilling and excavating. Yeah,
Excellent.
Excellent. Good job. Give me another options, Bo. Let's see what else. What those are the answers. Good job, guys. There's another one. Let's get your documentation. You have to do a J what or an action emergency. What do you need to do? Identify private utility. Yeah, good job.
Yeah,
You have
nice.
to have all your requirements. Job safety analysis. What is also important, if something happens, what if fire is going on and you have your crew, you have to have some sort of a document, right? For those kind of situations.
If
something goes super wrong.
Yeah, something goes wrong, it's something that can save lives.
All details needed. Good job,
Nice.
Russell. What is that one? There's 2 important ones in step 1. Yeah, an emergency action plan. That's good. And
plan.
Consider potential access issues. Good job, Linda. That's important for locators. Verify local permit requirements. That's good. Good job, Casey. Those are very important before you actually not only start, but before you submit a local request. Let's go to step 2, Bo.
Yep.
Step 2. What comes in step 2, guys? You have all those requirements, all those steps ready in step 1.
Got all your information prepared from your planning.
Give me the first hint. Yeah, contact A11 and submit a ticket. Good job, Lori. Let's see. You have to have all the information. How can you contact A11? You can do it in 2 ways. Nowadays, everything can be either in an easy way. You can either call or phone or website. Yep, that's
Nice.
great. Yeah. Yeah, now it's super easy. What else do you have to have? You need to have ready for that step 2. You have to give information, right? What kind of information? You get the last 2 hints. What information is important when you contact A11? Let's see what they say. Scope. Yep. Scope and start. Yeah. The dig area. Yeah.
Your extent. Fantastic.
Fantastic. Which one is really important about giving information? It's a person, right? But what kind of person? Information.
If there's a separation between the office and the field.
Field contact. Correct. Yeah, Lori, you're not going to go to the park. Yeah, pass. Okay, let's go.
Lori, we're going to have to get contact because we're going to have to send some swag.
Cassie, or Casey, sorry if I'm not mispronouncing your name. Yeah. Step 3. So you have step 1, you prepare, you have everything ready, all good, and then you're contacting A11 either phone or via online. You give all the information about the field contact, the scope. Step 3, you have to have to wait how many hours? Let's see. You have to wait the required start time. Yeah. Good job, Linda. You have to wait 48 hours. And what is it something about those 48 hours? It doesn't count the day that you
notify.
You notify. Yeah. The day that you submit. What else? We're closer in holidays. Notify or submit the ticket. Holidays and
weekends.
Good job. What else do we have in step 3? Something that you cannot do while you're waiting those 48 hours. I think it's pretty easy.
That might be pretty obvious, but
yeah.
You can't.
No, no, we're just giving that little hint. Yeah, you cannot dig. Yep,
Excellent.
you're right, correct.
Perfect.
You cannot start working. Yep, yep. You have to wait. I know it's hard, but that's what prevents damages. Okay, step 4. But what do we have in step 4?
You need to confirm something.
Yeah, what do you need to confirm in step 4? Responses. Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
excellent.
Yeah, not only to confirm the responses, guys, but you have to check that those responses match what you're seeing on site. Yep. And you have to understand, for those workers on the field, you have to understand those responses and communicate. It's just really important if you don't understand something. If there's something that you need to more clarification, ask your project manager, or just make those questions, right? You want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Good job. And that's something very important to step 4, Bo. Respect. Respect.
You just covered respect markings.
Respect markings. Oh, respect markings. Good job, Kenan. Yeah.
Awesome.
Submit a second notice and third notice if requires, if it's needed. Yep. Good job. Yep. If you don't get the responses on step 4, you have to submit second, third notice, or extend to if needed, right? To depending on what happened to your marks. And step 5, the easiest, last one.
What do we got to do?
What is it? Oh my God, who's that little guy doing? Safe digging. Yep.
Safe digging. Excellent.
And another important thing when it comes to safe digging, you have to respect what? You have to respect people, but you also have to respect the 24 inches outside of the wall. On the
got a fancy name.
Yeah. It starts with a T. You have to respect the turn zone. Yeah, the property and area. Yeah.
Perfect.
Try to use self-digging methods to protect those underground assets before you actually start using heavy equipment, but also you want to expose that underground facility, support it, visualize it, and
secure.
Yeah.
Secure it.
Well, with that being said, good job, guys. It seems like you got it pretty quick.
Y'all are on it.
All right. Well, we're gonna say goodbye. We'll see you guys in the next session. For those who are staying, again, you guys have to, I guess, leave this session and connect to the next one. Bo left the link in the chat, and connect here in a little bit. So we'll see you guys here in a little bit again, and have a great rest of the morning for those who are just done for the day.